Thank you, Phyllis. Welcome to Unity of Bloomington. My name is Joni, and I'm delighted to be your service leader this morning. Special welcome to all the smiling faces here in the chapel this morning, and to those of you online, hi, hello. Wherever and whenever you are watching this, we are grateful that you're sharing your eternal now moment with us. I'd like to invite you now to speak our statement of being together. We are a heart-centered community seeking spiritual awakening and transformation by deepening our connections with God, self, and others. Now, I invite you to stand if you choose and as able to sing our welcome song.
Up and down, spinning round, seems things are changing almost every day. Up and down, spinning round, but I find balance, I find my way, centered in the peace of God, centered in the peace of God. There is clarity, there is wisdom, there is abundant grace, centered in the peace of God, centered in the peace of God. I am standing where love is landing, clear and open for the highest good. I am standing where love is landing, clear and open for the highest good, centered in the peace of God, centered in the peace of God, centered in the peace of God, centered in the peace of God.
Thank you. You may be seated. Unity of Bloomington has been in a time of transition, and transitions are always exciting. There are a lot of words you can use to describe a transition. Chaotic, stalled, random, long periods of time where maybe it looks like nothing's happening, and then periods of time where a whole lot is happening at once. It's like a duck floating across the water. It seems just slow and gentle and even, but there's a whole lot happening under the surface. So as part of our transition, we have been using a transition affirmation. So I invite you to state our transition affirmation together. Unity of Bloomington is generating an abundant future in expansive alignment with Spirit. We lean deeply into truth principles, live our faith, and trust the process. Our greatest desire is to be abundant and attract those who value spiritual growth, including our next minister.
Hosanna, loud Hosanna, the little children sing, through pillar, court, and temple, the lovely anthem rang, to Jesus who had blessed them, bent closer to his breast, the children sang their praises, the simplest
Our mystic moment today includes a quote by Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore. Charles wrote in the vernacular of the day, referring to humankind as man and using male pronouns. We listen today to the spirit of his words with hearts and ears of inclusiveness. On Palm Sunday, we honor the last week of Christ's life on our earthly plane. Jesus began this journey into Jerusalem on a donkey, symbolizing peace and humility. He was welcomed with cheers and palm fronds, symbolizing goodness and victory. The spiritual peace of the Christ mind is the ever-present knowing that God resides within and without, no matter what the circumstances in life or of impending death. In Keep a True Lent, Charles Fillmore wrote, "When man praises the spirit of wisdom within, he expands and deepens and enriches his consciousness. As the Christ radiance lights man's mind, he sees with the inner eye and finds that truth is a never-failing light that makes straight the way. In this high state of consciousness, he knows that the divine perfection that exists in the universal God mind is brought into direct contact with its image and likeness, the Christ spirit that is implanted in him by the Creator from the beginning. The resurrection of Jesus takes place in us each time we rise to the realization of the perpetual indwelling life that connects us with the Father. The grave cloths of mortal sense, which are thoughts of limitation and inevitable obedience to material laws, are left in the tomb of matter. True resurrection within us lifts up all the faculties of mind until they conform to the absolute ideas of right mind. This mental renewal makes a complete transformation of the body so that every function works in divine order and every cell becomes incorruptible and immortal." End quote. In essence, Jesus symbolizes our I am identity. His entrance into Jerusalem means our taking the last step in the unfolding and preparation for the final step, when the ego personality is entirely crucified and the Christ light triumphs.
Last night I lay a-sleeping, there came a dream so fair. I stood in old Jerusalem, beside the temple there. I heard the children singing, and ever as they sang, methought the voice of angels from heaven in answer rang. Methought the voice of angels from heaven in answer rang. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, lift up your gates and sing, Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna to your King. And then methought my dream was changed, the streets no longer rang. Hushed were the glad hosannas, the little children sang. The sun grew dark with mystery, the morn was cold and chill. As the shadow of a cross arose upon a lonely hill, as the shadow of a cross arose upon a lonely hill, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, hark how the angels sing, Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna to your King. And once again the scene was changed, new earth there seemed to be. I saw the holy city beside the tideless sea. The light of God was on its streets, the gates were open wide, and all who would might enter, and no one was denied. No need of moon or stars by night, for sun to shine by day. It was the new Jerusalem that would not pass away. It was the new Jerusalem that would not pass away. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, sing, for the night is warm. Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna forevermore. Hosanna in the highest, Hosanna forevermore.
Thank you, Dan and Phyllis. Reverend Robin Volker is a dedicated Unity minister, dynamic speaker, and certified coach, specializing in guiding individuals through transformative, fresh starts. With expertise in applying spiritual principles to everyday challenges, Robin has led congregations in Ohio and Georgia and is a highly sought-after guest speaker for Unity churches. Away from her ministerial duties, she enjoys gardening, camping, and reading in the serene Georgia mountains. Reverend Robin has been a good friend to Unity of Bloomington during our transition, and we're delighted to welcome her back today.
Happy Palm Sunday to Unity of Bloomington. It's my honor to be with you, and thank you for inviting me to come back again. I'm a little intimidated at following Dan and Phyllis's musical performance. Wow, I want you both to know that I am standing in ovation to you. Reading from A Course in Miracles, chapter 20, it says, "This is Palm Sunday, the celebration of victory and the acceptance of the truth. This week begins with palms and ends with lilies. That is perhaps my most favorite quote from A Course in Miracles. I love the imagery of beginning with palms and ending with lilies. Holy Week isn't just a time for reflection once a year. It's a rich tapestry of meaning that's woven into the very fabric of our daily lives. The events and stories of that week are not distant history. They are as relevant and poignant today as they have ever been. I encourage you to think of Holy Week as a time capsule that, when opened, it reveals a pattern for life as taught by Jesus in his final days. In that one crucial week, he left behind a treasure trove of wisdom, a gift for all of us to use on our daily lives. As enthusiasts of metaphysics, we understand that Easter is far more than the historical account of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. The Easter story is our story too. It is a living, breathing narrative that holds the potential to be as transformative for us today as it was for those who lived it 2,000 years ago. Maybe more so because we have the advantage of looking at it over the expanse of time. Today, we breathe new life into the stories of Holy Week. And hopefully, we have done our dedicated and reflection prayer work through this Lenten season, and that has prepared us to unlock the powerful, profound stories in these timeless narratives. Holy Week's emotional journey is a mix of happiness and sadness, reflecting life's ups and downs. And we have a tendency to dwell on the crucifixion, somber story, because that was a moment of intense sorrow. Yet this focus on hardship tends to be just part of our human nature. The invitation today is to remember that these trials are part of a broader story of rejoicing, an interplay between joy, sorrow, and joy again. Holy Week unfolds as an 8-part drama, a sequence of vignettes where truth is unveiled by the master teacher. And each day is a separate scene rich with spiritual lessons and insights. So we're invited to take a closer look and dive into the profound revelations that Jesus presented in that last week. As we journey through these days, we get a chance to witness and learn from these pivotal moments. So let's walk through the first 5 scenes of that 8-fold drama of Holy Week together. Scene 1 begins today on Palm Sunday, marking Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. This significant event is chronicled in all 4 Gospels, so that highlights its importance. It was a homecoming for Jesus because coming back into Jerusalem was where he initially launched his ministry. And Jesus entered into Jerusalem on a donkey. This was a powerful fulfillment of Scripture for those who were familiar with the prophecies. Here was a robust and resilient man who was known for walking vast distances by foot, and he chose to ride a donkey on the final stretch into Jerusalem. This act, while seemingly simple, was laden with symbolism and significance. It was a humble gesture, yet it spoke volumes for his role as the King of Peace, not as a worldly conqueror. So Jesus entered meekly into the gates where his ministry had begun and where it would reach its climax. You imagine that the entry of a conquering king going into a city to obtain power and might, the king would come on a great war horse and display dominance and strength. But a holy man arrives on a meek donkey, symbolizing humility and peace. This was a deliberate choice on Jesus' part, and it was a profound statement about who he believed he was, a peaceful Messiah. In this one choice, Jesus summarized his message and mission, and it set the tone for the events to come throughout the rest of that week. Scene 2 unfolds on Monday of Holy Week, and it presents us with the dual lessons of the fig tree and the cleansing of the temple, two events that are often misinterpreted. Both these events demonstrate decisive steps on the path of spiritual mastery. Jesus had been staying with his friends, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, in the neighboring burb of Bethany. That Monday morning, they journeyed back to Jerusalem, and on their way, they encountered a fig tree that had lush foliage but bore no fruit. Jesus cursed it. This was a symbolic act of reflecting the importance of living a life that bears spiritual fruit. Then, upon arriving at the temple in Jerusalem, Jesus is upset. He's confronted with a scene of commerce and chaos. Merchants were selling animals for sacrifices, and money changers were haggling with those who needed to exchange foreign currency. In witnessing all of this, Jesus took decisive action and cleansed the temple, driving out those who had turned the place of worship into a marketplace. This was a powerful demonstration of the need to maintain the sanctity of spiritual practice. On Tuesday, the narrative for Holy Week continues as Jesus and his disciples continue to make their way again from Bethany to Jerusalem. And this day was filled with teachings and parables as Jesus imparted wisdom to his followers, and he confronted the challenges posed by the religious authorities. As the day grew to a close, they returned once again to the home of Lazarus. And here we witness a tender and poignant moment. Mary, one of Lazarus' sisters, took a costly and precious oil and anointed and soothed Jesus' feet with it. Now imagine, in those days, people only wore sandals, and it was the desert. Imagine how dry and tired Jesus' feet must have been. This act of devotion and love was not only a gesture of deep respect and honor towards Jesus, it was a testament of Mary's faith and of the intimate connection she shared with Jesus. Now, in this scene, we also encounter a moment of discord. It's a clue to what will happen later on, as Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, expressed his disapproval for Mary's actions. He argued that the expensive oil should have been sold and proceeds given to the poor, and Judas labeled Mary's act as wasteful. However, Jesus responded to Judas with a rebuke, defending Mary's right to use the oil as she saw fit. He emphasized the significance of her actions, and here he suggested that she was preparing him for his burial. This exchange marks a turning point for Judas. He got his feelings hurt. He became angered by the rebuke. He felt alienated, and he left the house in a huff and headed back to Jerusalem by himself. Thus, as Judas separated himself from the other 12 and separated himself from Jesus, he set into motion the events that would lead to his betrayal of his dear friend. This moment is a stark reminder of the complex interplay of human emotions, and that our choices can lead us down vastly different paths and create vastly different outcomes. Scene 4 of Holy Week brings us to the solemnness of the Last Supper. In a borrowed room within the city of Jerusalem, Jesus and the 12 disciples gathered to observe the Passover meal, a time-honored Jewish tradition. And during this intimate gathering, Jesus performed acts of symbolism and of commitment. He took bread and broke it and shared it with his disciples. He then offered them wine from a shared cup. The bread represents universal substance. The wine symbolizes vitality and life. These are powerful metaphors for the divine sustenance and spiritual life that flows to us from God. This ceremony was not just a ritual, it was a tangible expression of the deep bond between Jesus and his disciples. It's a moment that cements their unity, their shared commitment to their spiritual journey that they were taking together. Jesus used this occasion to impart to them the essence of his teaching, that God's goodness and eternal life are ever present, and they are here for us to move through and allow God to sustain us no matter what is happening in our lives. Scene 5 is that deeply moving and transformative part of the story where Jesus took the disciples to the Garden of Gethsemane. Now remember, there were no longer 12 disciples because Judas had already departed. This is a serene yet somber setting, and it's the backdrop for the most human and relatable moments in Jesus' journey. Imagine with me, in the quiet of the garden, Jesus felt the weight of impending events. And there, in that prayerful place, he's confronted with the full extent of his human vulnerability. He experienced a profound inner struggle, grappling with natural fear and apprehension for what lay ahead for him. In his isolation, he reached out to Father God with heartfelt prayers, seeking strength and solace. His humanity was laid bare as he expressed his fears, and in that moment, he pleaded for the cup of suffering to pass from him, if at all possible. Here, in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus' transformation reached its highest point. Through his prayers and that inner turmoil, he found the resolve to embrace his destiny. He transcended his human fears and fully accepted his role. This act of surrender and courage marks the moment when Jesus fully embodied the Christ consciousness, ready to fulfill his mission of forgiveness and love. What a powerful testament to the strength of vulnerability and that victory can arise from surrender. Of all the scenes of Holy Week, the garden scene is my favorite. It's here in prayer that Jesus gave us the secret key to overcoming all challenges. Not my will, but thine be done, he prayed. The key to overcoming is to surrender and to allow Spirit to work through whatever circumstances may be in your life. We all have our Gethsemane moments when our humanness doubts our ability to proceed down the path in front of us. The master teacher taught us to let go and let God be in charge. And in moments of complete surrender, our will becomes whatever God's will is for us. And please don't be frightened by that, because God's will is always for the highest and best outcome for all. Through this release, we find our inner strength, we find our wisdom, we find our understanding. No matter what the difficulty is, we find triumph. So let's recap these scenes from a personal point of view for our own spiritual journey and growth. Scene 1, the triumphant entry, is about making a conscious decision to embark on a new path, a new journey. It's the moment that we commit to change. Just as Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem marked the beginning of an important part of his journey, for us, it's an important part of our journey as well. It means defining our goals, creating strategies, and beginning to act with resolve and clear intent. Scene 2 involves the need to cultivate and bring forth the fruits of our spiritual nature, to put action to our desires, to look at our lives and make sure that we are actually producing spiritual fruit. And additionally, it means we need to cleanse our minds and lives of material beliefs and habits and addictions that serve only as distractions for us. Scene 3, the anointing, is when we allow ourselves to feel anointed with divine ideas of spirit, to be anointed with things that we don't think that we deserve, to rest in the assurance that we are worthy creations of God. It's important for us to remember that our divine connection and worthiness is our personal journey, and we need to nurture that and allow it to enrich our spiritual experience. The Last Supper reminds us to partake in the feast of prayer and meditation, to break the bread of spiritual substance, to drink the wine of vitality and life. We do this in preparation for stepping boldly toward what God is guiding us to do. And then there in scene 5, in the garden, in the place of miracles, we become stronger than we ever thought we could be. We surrender our will to the higher will. In the garden, we become one with God. We walk into the garden in our humanness, and we walk out in our Christed nature. Indeed, the journey of Holy Week is a profound one that reflects our own spiritual and personal journeys. It's a time for commitment, reflection, cleansing, renewal, gratitude, and surrender. And each day of Holy Week has its own significance, mirroring the trials and tribulations and triumphs that we experience in our everyday lives. Today, let us find personal meaning and connection as we reflect and embrace these stories of Holy Week and find the ways that they represent our story of life. Let us take time for reflection and meditation.
All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy.
All good, all good. Let us turn within and find tranquility inside that sacred space within our hearts. I invite you to follow the gentle rhythm of your breath. Inhale serenity and exhale tension. Inhale serenity and exhale tension. There is nothing for you to do in this moment but be present right here, right now, in this holy space. As we turn within, we connect with that pure, infinite essence that is spirit within. Just feel the warmth of the glow of the Christ light within you. With each breath, I invite you to take the soothing mantra, Infinite Spirit is guiding my life. Infinite Spirit is guiding my life. Feel these words as a gentle wave just easily wash over you. Infinite Spirit is guiding my life. If today you carry thoughts that weigh heavy on your heart, surrender them to the infinite and whisper to your mind, "Infinite Spirit is guiding my life." In this moment, trust that you are magnetically aligned, that the wise one, the resourceful one, the infinite spirit of your being is guiding you, supporting you, bolstering you. Breathe deeply. Infinite Spirit is guiding my life. Each time you repeat the mantra, you go deeper. Every question, every doubt, fading into the background. Spirit within is lifting you higher, aligning your thoughts with new possibilities, shining light on the path before you. And what may have seemed dark begins to be illumined. Rest now in a moment of silence, quietly repeating, "Infinite Spirit is guiding my life." All the possibilities before me to make new choices, to allow Spirit to work within me to bring forth fruits of Spirit that will bless others, to cleanse my mind of thoughts that may have held me back, to allow myself to be anointed with new ideas, to dive deeply into my prayer and meditation time for sustenance and life. And to pray in the garden of my being, "Not my will, but thine be done." I trust in the power of Spirit within and its divine effectiveness to tend to every concern, every situation, every whisper of worry. I come back to joy, beginning to return to this time and space, allowing my heart to feel gratitude, to be open and receptive, and to allow the love of Spirit to fill me completely and totally. For there is only love, and that is the truth of my being. And so it is. Amen.
There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love.
As our greeters come forward for our time of gratitude, when we share our love offerings, our gifts, our tithes, to support the work of Unity of Bloomington. If you're visiting us today, or if you have a prayer request, there are prayer request forms and a blue visitors form in the seat back in front of you. We invite you to fill those out and place those in the bag. We have a text to give button. We welcome and recognize gifts of all forms and in all ways. So let us help you with text to give and with the bags that are passed. We appreciate you. I'll invite you to speak our abundance affirmation together. I am an abundant being in an abundant universe. I am not dependent on people or situations for my good. God is the source of my supply. I always have something to give, and I consistently give it. I expect the best, I give my best, and I now attract the best in every experience.
All glory, Lord, and honor to thee, Redeemer King, to whom the lips of children make sweet hosannas ring. Thou art the King of Israel, thou David's royal son, who in the Lord's name comest, the King and Blessed One. The company of angels are praising thee on high, and mortal men and all things created make reply. The people of the Hebrews with palms before thee went. Our praise and prayer and anthems before thee we present. Thou didst accept the praises, accept the prayers we bring, who in all good delightest, thou
now we bless our abundance and our offering with these words together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am grateful. And now we have just a couple of announcements this morning. You may notice that a little change in the west wall. A bulge was identified some time ago, and Randy and his crew were able to investigate that this week, remedy the situation. The good news is it is remedied. There were no other issues discovered, and ultimately supporting that wall contributes to supporting our north wall. So we're grateful. Thank you, Randy. And now I would like to invite Carol Peacock up for just a moment.
Good morning. I've been asked to share with you why I choose to volunteer at Unity of Bloomington. In late 2016, my husband and I moved to Bloomington from Michigan. I had been attending Unity churches for over 20 years, and I began attending Unity of Bloomington. Within the next year, I joined our choir. This was natural and easy for me, as I had taken part in choirs and other choruses off and on since I was about 8 years old. I liked to rehearse the music, and I found when I was cooking or gardening, I would hear the uplifting music running through my mind. I'm sure this week I'm going to hear the solo, Dan and Phyllis, that you performed today. Unity teaches the importance of tithing, also of giving of our time and talent. It was a while, though, before I volunteered in any other way for two reasons. One was that I had a health challenge. When I arrived in Bloomington, there were a couple of sore spots on the side of my tongue, and they needed to be removed by surgery. I had the surgery, and within a year, another sore spot appeared at a different location. Again, I had surgery. This happened again until over the span of 4 to 5 years, I had had 4 oral surgeries. Using my Unity tools, I meditated, I used denials and affirmations, and I consulted alternative healing practitioners. My health challenge eventually resolved, and I am grateful that no more sore spots have appeared since my last surgery over 2 years ago. The other reason I hesitated to get more involved had to do with my sister. She and I were very close, despite the fact that she lived more than 600 miles away from me in Pennsylvania. She had several challenges, and I provided support and encouragement to her by phone, and I paid her bills. 2 years ago, she made her transition. At first, I was filled with grief, and I needed time to work through that grieving process. I found taking part in a grief support group was very helpful to me. So while these circumstances took my time and attention, I felt I could not commit to volunteer at Unity of Bloomington. About a year ago, however, I realized that I felt space opening in my life. My health challenge had resolved, and I have worked through much of my grief. At the time, Reverend Nat Carter was our transitional minister. He invited people to join the prayer ministry team, and I signed up. Praying is something I do in the quiet of my home. There are no meetings, and there was no training. Reverend Nat's instructions were simply to pray in the manner in which you are accustomed. This, I might say, is different from being a prayer chaplain who is trained. And here at Unity at Bloomington, we do expect to have prayer chaplain training in the near future. A call went out for greeters at the Sunday service, and I signed up. I find I like to welcome people as they arrive on Sunday morning, and this allows me to get to know people who are new to our center. When the bylaws needed to be revised, I joined the bylaws committee. Strange, but I like to dig into details like that.
And she's good at it.
Last year, a vacancy appeared on the Board of Trustees, and I was asked if I had an interest in serving on it. I felt I could contribute to it, and I felt this was the right time for me to join it. It has been an honor and inspiration for me to serve on our board. In all of my activities at Unity of Bloomington, I enjoy being with positive, like-minded people. So to answer the question, why do I volunteer? It's because I like to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Carol's a delight to work with on the board. I think now we're going to have an update on the ministerial search from Phyllis.
Okay, we are a little farther along the path. We had some interesting conversations with the mothership this week. Well, that's Unity Worldwide, for those of you who don't know what my vernacular is. And this next week, we plan to send out a global email to everybody with the names, pictures, and links for the 3 candidates that we have so that you can investigate who they are. We are planning to ask them to give us a kind of a hybrid service in April, one Sunday for each one of the candidates, where they will give an opening prayer, a message, a short message, and a short meditation. And then we will have the interview, the formal interview that we have with each candidate right then and there, so that everyone who is here can not participate in it, but can listen to it. The board, and I think Joni's going to moderate that, the board and the search committee will be the ones actually asking the questions, but many of those questions will be ones that you have provided through the QR code and the link that has been in the newsletter, and back here, the QR code back in the tables and such. So you have participated so far with those questions. You'll be able to be there for the interview, and then we're going to ask you to bring a little piece, easily used, easily handled food. We'll have a short break, and then we'll discuss that candidate. So one Sunday, we have that set up right now for the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th of April. So that will be a Zoom, just so you know. They won't be here in person yet. The discussions that we'll have will be after a Zoom hybrid service, then the interview, then we'll discuss it, and then after all 3 of them have come to us by Zoom, we'll decide as a congregation who we want to bring in for a personal message workshop that they will teach, and a meet and greet with everybody, so that we are a little farther along the path, and we're getting there. So, thank you.
Thank you. The board is so grateful for the talent and the dedication of the search committee and the creative problem solving and ideas of incorporating a Zoom message and an interview. It's a great idea, and we're delighted. We're delighted that we can all be a little more involved in the process. All right, there are QR code stickers on the table in the lobby. You can scan these, and they bring you to the New to Unity section of our website. So please share those and pop them up on bulletin boards at work and all that good stuff. Share the message of Unity of Bloomington. Our upcoming speakers, next week is Easter Sunday, and Phyllis is coordinating a service of Easter in story and song. On April 7th, we welcome back David Brown. David is an Indianapolis-based consultant and professional who is a regular Unity speaker in the region, and he was here at Unity of Bloomington some years ago. So he's returning to us on April 7th. We've advised him, it's the day before the eclipse, so we've advised him to allow extra drive time just in case, but he's just coming to us back and forth to Indianapolis. And then as Phyllis noted, our candidates will be our guest speakers on April 14, 21, and 28, so very exciting. All right, I'll invite you to stand as able for a prayer for protection, and then we'll sing our closing song. Together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Form a circle and join hands.